Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, IMDb.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this special talk as part of the Outfronts presented by Outfest. My name's Cameron Sheets. I'm the entertainment editor at Queerty, but enough about me. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today with the stars and creators of the lovely Somebody Somewhere, which just wrapped up its second season on HBO. So shout out to HBO for bringing this panel together. But let's meet our esteemed guests. First, we have our golden voice angel, Bridget Everett, who is also a writer and executive producer for this series. Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
Then starring as her partner in crime, Joel, we've got the great Jeff Hiller.
Hello.
Playing Sam's newly single sister, Trisha, we've got the wonderful Mary Captain Garrison.
Hello.
As everyone's favorite soil scientist, Fred Rococo. We have the talented Murray Hill.
Soil scientist? That sounds weird the way you said it.
It's real,
dirt.
That's it. Dirt.
Hello.
Dirt fiend. And of course, please join me in welcoming series co-creators, writers, and executive producers Hannah Boss and Paul Thureen.
Hey, thank you.
Hello. So first of all, I've been dying to ask, who here has actually had St. Louis sushi? Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to have it.
And you turned it down?
I did. Yeah, I did.
It's actually delicious.
That sounds great.
Jeff, you just had some the other night, right?
I did. They dropped some off at my door. Our friend Larry makes it, and it's yeah.
That's where the soiling comes in.
Right. What's the origin story there? Who's had these in their past? Where did this come from?
Well, our good friend Larry Crone is Jim and Larry always have us over, and Larry and Jim are both great hosts and great cooks.
Indeed.
But, Larry comes up with some real he's very artistic and creative. One of the things that's in his upcoming book is St. Louis sushi, which is a pickle and cream cheese wrapped with ham. And it always makes a statement when it enters the room.
Bridget, I always think, I forgot to ask you this, but you don't eat ham under other circumstances, just a St. Louis sushi circumstance, right?
Yeah, but I've also had it with turkey, you cannot beat the cream cheese and the crunch combo,
I think pop-up video style that the food stylist, I think, for the show made it with turkey, right?
It looked sadder and older.
It does make it look sadder.
I think it really worked for what the end game is there.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're already getting these juicy behind the scenes secrets, and we just started. I can't believe it.
There's 2 or 3 more of those even.
Well, I want to start off talking a little bit more broadly about the response to the show. The show has such a loyal fan base. I think folks have such strong feelings for it. And, I've seen it described as a cult favorite, which if that's the case, I've fully drank the Kool-Aid, like I'm all in. But I wondered, Bridget, to point it to you, what does that mean to you to hear your show called a cult favorite?
I think that's sort of how my whole career has been, well, secret. I think probably other people on the panel can relate to that feeling. So it's, I kind of like that. I like to have something that people discover and that people hold dear, and it kind of feels like it's theirs. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've never been part of a cult following in any way, so I can't really chime in. I still can't believe that this is happening on any level, much less a cult one, which is the cutest level of all the cult levels. So I'll pass it off to, I think Murray might have some input in that capacity.
Well, as Bridget said, we've been slugging it in nightlife in New York, comedy, I won't say clubs because they're more like hallways, comedy rooms, cabaret spaces, all kinds of nightlife things. And to get onto HBO and to, people sometimes resent you for like selling out. So a cult favorite in my mind is like, that's the best case scenario, because us cool kids that have been like rejected, forever, showbiz, finally got on this prestigious network, but we're like the cool kids, the 0.25%, half of a 1% budget show, but we're the cult favorite, so we keep our cred. It took me a minute to land it, Cammie, but I got there.
You stuck it, Mary. Good job.
Mary.
And that's what it's all about, no matter what, maintaining your cred at all costs.
Clearly.
Well, I would sell out though. Like if there's anybody that wants to, commercial, whatever, I'm doing a heartbeat.
I'll sell out.
We all
Willingly
want
sell out.
shows. We all
Well, I
want to
sold out for way less than a TV show. Yeah.
I mean, I'm expecting Marvel to be calling all of you any minute now. So, well, I want to get into the season in particular. Now that we've seen the full thing, we really got to see such amazing growth for all of these characters throughout the season. And it all culminates at this beautiful wedding for Fred and Susan. I mean, just truly such a wonderful way to end things. But I wondered, for Paul and Hannah, could you talk a little bit about how you first started mapping out what the season would look like? I mean, were there conversations with each of your stars to talk about where their characters would be headed? How did we figure out this is where it would go?
Bridget's always involved in those conversations, which makes this collaboration really fun. I think that initially the conversation, a lot of it had to do starting with the barn, I believe. A lot of the stories sort of start with the relationship to singing. So we were thinking about sort of where we ended the season and what's another thing that we want to get to. And early on, it was a wedding, I think, in this barn. And at one point, it was in a different location and things are all sort of overlapping, but we were sort of thinking about everyone's storylines and how everyone could be involved. But it sort of started with sort of Sam and the land, and then things sort of changed a little bit when Mike's passed away, sadly, but the wedding was always part of the season from the very beginning of thinking about season 2.
I think also that, a lot of the season is about, Sam sort of doing the next step of opening up. That the first season, she was really coming alive. And this one, it's always going to be about her feelings of self-worth and feeling worthy of love. And as sort of other people around her are pairing up, sort of what that does for her and sort of this other view of love and how that affects Sam.
So, I mean, Bridget, from your perspective then, well, especially after the first season, after you really get to know and feel like you've lived in Sam, lived within these characters for all of the cast, do you then kind of come to the second season already with certain ideas or at least hopes for where you want them to go?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, we get in the room, we just start tossing out ideas and we think about every episode, it's like, okay, well, what's happening for Joel in this episode? What's happening for Fred in this episode? What's happening for Trisha? And sort of pacing things along and tossing out bigger ideas. But ultimately, like for our show, I think we find that if it's too plot driven or whatever, it just does it sort of takes away from I think the best things that happen are just the relationships of the characters and how they grow and how they are constantly sort of affecting each other's change. And the way that Jeff and Trisha and Fred have they all sort of outpace Sam with their ability to embrace change and so it sort of helps pull her along behind them, just like kind of emotionally. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting and Sam just tries to keep up.
I actually have, I guess, 2 big questions about the wedding in particular. And the first one is, was it a windy day when it was being shot? Because there were moments where it looks pretty windy, and I wondered if that became an issue at all.
It was not only was it windy, but it was no joke, 99 degrees.
Yeah.
It was sweltering. You're just out there with no cover, and the sun's just beating down, and everybody's wearing polyester suits. It was really brutal. Hats off to everybody for getting through it because it was tough.
Yeah, I was like a baked potato wrapped in a purple tinfoil that day.
Okay, you looked amazing though. I mean, everyone did, but that suit, my goodness.
Thanks, Cameron. I was dying inside.
It did actually make it hard in the edit, that scene in particular, just because so much wind, and you get what you get and you try to work around it. But Bridget said, Bridget's the one here who's from Kansas, and she's like, in Kansas the weather changes so quickly, and so it being windy at the beginning of a wedding speech and sunny and still at the end, that that fits within the real Kansas world.
And that little moment of Irma, who's there's like this tiny moment of Irma with her hair really looking crazy and she's really comfortable and just sitting there. That's like one of my favorite tiny moments.
Irma has a great finale between that and the Blue Cantrell number. My goodness.
Yeah. Megan Garachis, got to call her out. She's fabulous.
Thank you.
She is a dream.
Yeah.
Well, Murray, I wanted to pivot this to you. I mean, you and I specifically have previously talked about what we call the show's quiet power. And, you know, of course, in these times that can feel especially dark for queer people, you know, especially for the trans community, the wedding means so much, just being able to see this on TV, especially in this small town in Kansas. I mean, what message do you hope that the spotlight on Fred and Susan's wedding kind of puts out into the world from this season?
Nice one, Cameron. You know, I think I said this when we talked last time, but I hope that when people, especially now in today's, you said challenging times, I call it a shit show, dumpster fire from hell. I hope that when they see Joel giving the speech and Sam singing, and they see all the people from the community in the you know, sitting there in the audience, that they see Fred and Susie as people with hearts and love, and they see that first. That's what I hope, because it's a very you know, I was just gonna, I had therapy this morning, so I'm gonna say what I was really gonna say. It's a very normal wedding, right? And that's how, you know, the people, the queers, they think of, no, I'm not normal, right? So to just have them have a wedding that wasn't about, you know, discrimination, wasn't about, you know, being ostracized or any of that stuff. It was about love. And then the whole community came together and they had a great time. They got drunk, people hooked up. Sam had a couple of drinks. She's getting that engine going. So, you know, it was like a wedding that you would see anywhere. And my politics from day one is, you know, if you can show the humanity in the heart, that erases fear. So I think that's what I hope that it does for everybody. And that's what I said.
Yeah, there's such a small moment that comes when Sam, I think, first shows up and sees Trisha putting the flowers up for the sort of overhang, and Trisha just calls it a love rainbow. I mean, it's not necessarily meant to be a rainbow because this is a queer wedding. It's just, this is about love, and that's what this whole show is about.
Trisha came around, Cameron.
Yes, she did. Well,
do you have a, sorry, go ahead.
No. So all you, Mary Catherine, sorry.
I just have a lovely anecdote because my husband, I live in the town that he's from in Virginia. And I had someone come up to me in Kroger, which is a social epicenter of that town.
Of course.
And she said, obviously, and she said, Mary Catherine, I just have to tell you something. Me and my sister and our two best friends get together and watch this show every week. And then we sit around and we talk for 2 or 3 hours after about the show, and just drink wine and talk. And I said, well, that's amazing. I'm so glad. And she said, it's not just that. It's that because of this, because most of them have lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, their whole lives. They have never had access to people that live any kind of way that's different than how they live. And so for them, they feel like there's an otherness there. And I think what she was getting from the show is that it's actually the same. It's all pretty much the same. Love is love. People are people. And she was so grateful for the show in that way. And it's something that I don't think she would have been able to watch anywhere else.
I want to ask you, Jeff, you had mentioned before that you've got queer friends who, and mine are like this too, so this is not calling anyone out in particular, but you have friends that will sometimes get up in arms when we see a show with prominent gay characters, and you know, the immediate response is like, well, this doesn't represent me, or this doesn't feel authentic. So I mean, for you, what is it about Somebody Somewhere that makes it feel authentic, especially in terms of its LGBTQ plus representation?
Yes. Well, first of all, I will say that my friends are monsters. And,
yes.
Yeah, they're gay.
I love watching. The problem is that there aren't a lot of shows about queer people. And so when the one comes out, we're all like, but it's not about me, but it's not about me. And what's sort of nice about this show is that it's not about like, this show isn't like, here's a show about gay people. You know what I mean? It's a show that's I mean, Paul and Hannah and Bridget are very adamant that like there's this mandate for authenticity and that this is real, this is human. And it's not a TV show real, it's a real. And so I think, you know, I'm sure there are people who watch it and they're like, God, Joel dresses like shit. And he does. But the nice thing is that you're not looking at that being like, I've never seen, you know, a gay bar in Pittsburgh where there's a guy dancing up, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice. We're just plain.
Well, Jeffrey, you make a good point because, you know, I'm somebody that watches shows that gets fucking up in arms. I'm like, oh, God damn it, I can't. What is this, 1920? What is this? But I think what's the reaction I get from this show is people aren't upset about it. They thank me. It's like, it's a different kind of energy. And I think like you and me, it's like, we're not gay. I mean, I'll say this ridiculously, we're not gay stereotypes, but most of the time, gay people, even on gay shows with gay creators, they still tend to be stereotypes and tokens in it. It's like mind blowing. So I think that's the difference is like, we're not like, you know, we're not total like familiar stereotypes. So they can't get mad at us because they're like, oh, hey, that's Joel or that's Fred. You know, you remember what Cardi B said about gay people?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, she goes, you all need to get over yourself. We all have a gay cousin.
I love that we all just had that quote in our back pocket.
She's an influencer. I watch her stuff.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I was glad you brought up this kind of authenticity being the main driving factor in terms of like bringing the show together. I wondered, especially for Bridget, Paul, and Hannah, how do you even begin to quantify what makes something authentic? I mean, as you're writing out these stories, as you're working with the actors, you know, on set, how do you know when something feels inauthentic?
It just does. It sticks out. Like, it's like, if something sounds like too cutie, it's like we tried to, you know, like some precious line or something. Like sometimes it's just like, it just has to go because it sticks out. I mean, everything should just be as conversational as possible. And I don't know, maybe
it's
that's
the worst though when they cut one that's real funny. Oh.
No, yeah, I think that's, oh yeah.
Well, one thing that I get up on arms about is like when I'm watching a show and it's just like zinger, 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 you know, like, and the actors are trying to trump each other. And to me, it's sort of, then you lose like the story and you lose like what's going on with the people. So I prefer the way that, well, it works for us to sort of strip some of that back and then let each other, you know, and let the characters laugh with each other, which I think is also really cool. It's like, it's fun to let those moments like play out. Like in the first episode when Sam and Trisha and Joel are having dinner, like we were making each other laugh, like we were just having fun. And it's nice to kind of let that breathe a little bit. I don't know. I probably didn't answer your question properly, but I tried.
We're also sort of teeter-tottering on like two different tones in this show. And I feel like it's very fun to sort of play with really emotional stuff, but then also some humor sometimes gets us out of that. And we only do that the way we do that in life. You know, I feel like it's sometimes you have reactions to things that are laughing at times you want to cry, and the opposite, you want to cry sometimes when you're laughing. And I feel like, again, Jeff mentioned it, we really just try to keep it human. And if it sounds like a TV show, we try to not have it in it because if it smells like a TV show, it's sort of out.
And I think we enjoy caring about all the details, and that we have a trust that, you know, Bridget, Hannah, and myself, and Carolyn Strauss, our executive producer, everybody at HBO is really on the same page as far as what that means, what the feel of the show is, and what authenticity means. And Hannah and I are both from the Midwest, Bridget from Kansas. We want to make sure, it's like Jeff said, when you don't see yourself in a show, then every little detail sort of is heightened. And so I think we feel that if it's filtered through all of us and we are caring about every detail, we're caring about every line, we're caring about bringing authenticity to every character. And I think it's fun for us then to figure out the different way into things. And I know I had a a pastor friend of mine, and she emailed me and said, "Thank you so much for having a female clergy member whose first line was about having a margarita." Like, I think always trying to find like the humanity in people and doing it in the way that's maybe to the side of what is normally done feels real to us and feels also fun to just work that way and think that way. And so we're drawing on our own stories, our own interactions. And then of course, when you're working with people like this, you know, when you have a wedding with an important moment, talking to Murray about those things, making sure that we're getting the details right. I think it's sort of that collaboration is sort of where it comes from.
Tammy, I got a point to add to that.
Please.
And I don't want to go too far up Bridget's ass because I'm already in there and there's not a lot of room left. But, you know, I'm her biggest fan. I've seen pretty much like maybe Bridget, like 1,000 shows.
Probably.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of her shows. I know the jokes back and forth, but to just touch back to Bridget's, how she came up in authenticity is when you go to Bridget's show, the audience doesn't, because I watch the audience too. So you don't experience as you're watching someone do material. You're not watching someone reading a script and trying to remember, right? So, you know, so when you go see a play and everyone's like, and you don't connect with them, you're not connecting with them because they're not getting past the words, right? So they're not feeling the heart. Bridget she leads with her heart and her gut first, and then has words. But when you experience Bridget, you experience a feeling first. It's not dialogue, right? You feel her presence, you feel her energy, and then you're sucked in and you're listening. And I think that how Bridget has come up through show business, and it hasn't been a traditional way, like pounding the boards, as we say as vaudevillians, you know, is that what makes it authentic is because that's how she's come up. She hasn't come up going to acting school or reading scripts or trying to nail her show. Her thing, you correct me if I'm wrong, your main point, besides making it alive through the show, is to connect with the audience. That's it. And when you connect with an audience, that's about heart beating and blood flowing and all that shit. So I think when people say real, that's because it's, you know, that's how she works. That's her art. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I'm gonna hug you first tonight, okay?
Did you get that on film?
Yeah, we're recording. We're rolling. So
this is being recorded.
A minute ago, Bridget, you brought up the first episode, the dinner scene. It was one of my favorites, that episode. And I have to take a moment to shout out Mary Catherine because that was some stellar drunk acting, some buzz acting. You
So
killed
good.
it.
I think bad drunk being a pet peeve. So I thank you so much for that.
It's such a hard thing to do. Like
is.
it's a masterclass, honestly. Like just really hard to do. She did it so well. And
But
there's
it's
so
also, it was 107 degrees in that house. So I kind of was drunk.
Recurring theme of it being extremely hot at all times, I'm hearing. Well, Mary Catherine, I mean, Trisha, I think beyond that, we see, as with many of the characters, but Trisha really does go through the emotional gamut this season.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a certain element of what she goes through her story this time that was the most challenging or even the most exciting for you to dive into?
It was all the most exciting, all of it. I mean, I think for an actor, something like this is, I think all actors like to play the villain, the bad guy. So that's always fun, which I think Trisha is, especially in the pilot episode. Hopefully you come to like her a little bit more through season 1, but you know, she's kind of the foil for all the cool kids. But I don't know, this character, I keep saying this, but this is, I probably will retire after this show because I don't know how it can get any better than getting to play all of these things, track her in all of these different emotional situations where her life is, it's falling apart. I mean, it's just like there's so much meat on this bone. It is just joyful to do. So nothing scared me. Everything was just hell yeah. I loved it.
Paul, we all just like left it all on the field the whole season. But Paul's favorite thing, one of his favorite things from the whole season is when during that dinner scene, can you do it, Paul? When Trisha goes,
Trisha goes,
Trisha.
Yeah.
We're just always making
good
Paul.
when you
Paul, can
do
you do
it.
that again, Paul? Just always.
Yeah.
One more take.
We'll try.
It's like that little stuff that like makes us so happy.
Amazing. Well, I wanted to talk about I can't even begin to speak for all of you, but I know even just as a fan of the show, hearing about Mike Haggerty's passing was just so heartbreaking. And he, of course, played Ed on the show, and I think his presence is very much felt all season long. I know that the last episode is titled To Ed, and we give him a nice shout out in Fred's speech. But I mean, for all of you, Bridget, Hannah, Paul, all of you, I'm curious to hear, I mean, what's something you learned from working with Mike that you've really been able to then like turn around and bring to the show, especially with the second season?
That's a really good question. I think one of the first thing that comes to mind is gratitude. That his like, he's obviously the sort of the most accomplished out of any of us, and like showed up kind of just as eager and giddy as the rest of us were to do it. Like I think to be at something for as long as he was doing it, and to be, he just had a lot of excitement about being there. He was so respectful and loved all of us, and just was like, like we were all kind of family right away. And that doesn't always happen when you meet somebody who's been around. He's just like the kind of person that makes you feel like the most special person in the room,
Yeah, he made it a very level playing field. He made everybody feel like they were as important as we probably saw him as being. And he also just he radiated so much kindness. I mean, he's someone you wanted to be around. He's someone you want on your set. He's someone, he could improv his ass off, and he was so freaking funny. He was a good person, man. He was really great.
Yeah, it's
Really
beautiful.
took care of everybody. I think for us, this show is a big deal for us, and it's a big step for us. And I think that we were trying not to show how scared we were when we were starting the first season. And I think that there's just something comforting about his presence and just his joy of being there, and the way that he would take care of his acting partners in scenes, but also take care of us. And I think that I don't know if we would have been able to like pull our shit together. I mean, when he was around, it's like everything is going to be okay. And he just had so much joy being there. And it was just sort of like, yes, let's just do the best we can. Let's take care of each other. Let's play with each other. And then go and have a drink and hang out afterwards.
He was a true Midwesterner too. It was really wonderful to have this character be kind of partly who they were too. There was such a truth to that character and Mike, and shooting it in Chicago, where he sort of got a little bit famous with the Second City and all that. It was just like, he was just a really generous, very, very kind man.
Yeah, I think that
he played 1,000 roles, but nothing like this before, and he played the hell out of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tribute to him. I mean, it's this show definitely stands as a great testament to his legacy and who he was. So thank you for that, especially as a sort of final question. Gloria is a big song for the season, and it really, everything kind of culminates in this incredible performance. I wanted to just kind of hear what was in terms of, as far as the show goes, what's the origin story for that song? Like, when did that come into the conversation?
Guys,
I love this story.
Well, the way I remember it.
So it's going to be different from the last time you heard it.
Well, Murray and Jeff and I all live together in the Ding Dong dorm, and we like to we like to go to Target on the weekends, and and maybe brunch, something for the table, whatever. But we got in a car. Jeff was driving. Put on the whatever was on the radio was on the radio. Do you guys want to? It was playlist.
I had a
About
playlist.
stereotypes. Tell them the name of the playlist.
Yas Girl, GURL.
Well, let me tell you what, it's a good fucking playlist. And Gloria came on, and I don't know, I just felt like we all like were so giddy when Gloria came on. It's like you can't help but the song.
The
And
list, by the way, is crafted around Gloria. I will say it's the number
The
one song.
centerpiece, yeah. Well, I mean, it ends everything on such a wonderful note. So, I'm just glad that every time I hear that song now, I'm just immediately going to think of everyone from the show. It's just,
Aw.
what a bop, what a song. I'm sad to say that we're going to have to end things there, but I mean, cannot thank you all enough, obviously for the time today, but just for sharing this show with the world. I'm not the first to call it this, but it is truly a warm hug of a show, and it feels so good. And I know there are many, many others who feel the same way. So it means everything. Thank you so much. And of course, big thanks to HBO for bringing this together, and the entire team at the Outfronts presented by Outfest. I've been Cameron Sheets, and it's been a dream come true. Thanks, everyone.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Cameron.
All right, Cam, thank you.